got everything. Hold on, let me not send off a test message. No, it's not made for kids. Every thumbnail is just me looking over to the side because by the time that YouTube kicks in, it's just me like staring over there at the laptop that does this function. I gotta tell you. Look at this bitch that's always starting her stream like right before me. Got a big old gap in her teeth right there. Ooh, that ain't good. But so in the JRE Discord, I say, good morning, hitters. Time to get up and get it. And I couldn't agree more right there. And somebody in the LRH Discord was saying, we miss you, Chrono. I agree 100%. I think this may be, it's like a deep on a Sunday morning. It may just be me up here. Well, that's okay. This is a stream where I don't necessarily need every person on the face of the earth to be enjoying what's going down. We got one viewer, but that might just be me in the YouTube console right there. But generally, Saturday mornings are pretty light for me. Apparently Bitcoin is sexist. Bitcoin gender trading win-win study. Why would you fucking sexualize shit coins? It's just women have more fucking sense. That's what that comes down to. That's been the cause of a lot of like just about every gender study could just be like women have more sense than that. The end. What did I read that yesterday? That something like 20% of all Bitcoins ever were lost in wallets where somebody had forgotten the password or they threw out their key and it's in a dumpster somewhere or something. So that's some wild shit right there. Wait, so who are we not broadcasting to in our... Oh, there's just an error with Periscope. What's the error? Periscope broadcast enable. I might be able to get this back on Periscope because I know some people actually watch this whole thing. I mean, if nobody's here, let's try that. Twitter. I'm sad that Twitter's shutting off Periscope. There's just so few. Log in. Twitter. Sign in. Periscope is discontinuing on March 31, 2021. Move to Twitter to continue watching and broadcast. Okay. I'll learn more. Blah, blah, blah. All right, well, I'll click move to Twitter. See, Restream doesn't allow you to, here, hold on. ZYZ, let me click on, let me look at our settings right here. Enable superfans, your Periscope data. Your account has been limited. Contact support to regain access. They did this shit to me before. Yeah, it's fucking annoying. Yeah, they would just limit your account if you were streaming on Periscope. I don't understand why my other show doesn't ever get limited. Like, it's definitely much more aggressively terrible in every way, shape, and form. But they let this one, they let it just fucking slide. Say lovey. Well, I'm going to be editing on my lonesome here this morning, but it's okay because I feel very much at peace this morning. I got to go for like a nice long walk. I'm finally on the spot where I'm trying to. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to take milk out of my coffee in the morning. Just I felt like you're getting like 40 or 50 calories worth of dairy, slowing you down early in the morning. And I'm trying to do that intermittent fasting to where I only eat between like 11 o'clock and 5 p.m. Right there, just like about a 6 hour window. That works pretty well for me. Yeah, just trying to dog shit if I'm like eating a lot of food and dairy like slows me down. Uh, I'm I'm doing it slowly but surely. We're gonna get there. Can't believe my account got limited. How could they ban me? Okay. So this is chapter. I'm not going to play the intro if there's nobody here to view it. I'm just broadcasting into the void. You can see our other broadcasts if you want to gander upon our beautiful intro. But so far, like the reaction from women that I've sent it to has not been hyper good. I mean, it's so weird. I really, as we get deeper into the story, it'll just become more and more apparent that this intro is kind of wild right there. But maybe we'll get some people on Sunday morning right there. So to recap, if you're watching this for the first time ever, my name is Zach ZYZ. I'm a science fiction writer currently in Brooklyn, New York, originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I have written way too many books. I write every single day, and whether it's good or not, I put it in a book and publish it. That's not true. Actually, we do a shit ton of editing, and this here is the proof. If you look through the channel, you can see some of the other books that I've edited. I only work on my own stuff because I'm not a professional editor. I wouldn't subject anybody else to this. But I really enjoy writing. And right now I'm working on selling the last book that we edited on this stream, Lemon Maybe and the Electric Lady. And I am working on the pitch letter for it right here. I'm very fortunate to have a good friend in publishing who has offered me like really valuable advice. Like, hey, idiot, don't say the dumb shit that you're about to say to agents where they just kick your letter right into the trash and so forth. It's such a weird dynamic, asking somebody to represent you. And honestly, if you're good enough, people will be asking you for the honor of representing you. So I'm not at that pinnacle just yet, but I'd like to get there. I'd like to be the one. But we gonna see right there. So anyhow, I'm working on that. Probably today, I'm gonna send off like a few targeted emails to agents where I know that they like the stuff that I'm doing, or I know that they like the kind of stuff that I'm doing. There's honestly, there's a lot of arrogance in my character for the most part, but honestly, like the books I'm putting out now are better than got to be at least 75% of the novels that I read, where I can just look at it and be like, objectively, what I'm doing is superior. Of course, like the idea of rating your own work and being objective is ludicrous there, but they're pretty fucking solid, and I'm sure that you will agree if you've read any of them there. And I feel like I'm growing stronger all the time in writing because I keep at it. This is something that I do every single day. I take it very seriously. It's the last thing that I think about before I go to sleep. It's the first thing that I think about when I wake up. And it's like something that I want to do for the rest of my short ass life. What little time remains to me right here. So shout out to whoever just popped up in the stream. I see 2 viewers on one and 1 on the other. So although this one could be fucked up because it just disconnected from a crazy VPN. All right, now I see 2 there. So whoever's out there with us, you can proceed in editing Chapter 7, The Garbage Lands. A quick synopsis. This is the story about an inmate who is pressed into service to fly what may or may not be a suicide mission. It's called XEROS, and obviously we're alluding back to sort of the end of Imperial Japan, the kamikaze fighters. But this is set in the far future. It's like 500 or 600 years in the future. It's a spaceship story. And most of the action is going to take place on a military prison that's on a space station somewhere. So what's happened thus far in the story? We've met the protagonist, whose name is Trader. All the inmates are referred to by their crimes. They don't have a number, like first or last name or anything like that. A lot of the action deals with the interchanges between these very sadistic drill sergeants and the convicts who are being whipped into shape. And we're at the part of the war where it's pretty obvious that they're losing, and they're starting to take older people and children and try to send them on these like Hail Mary last shot missions. One of these people is a Trader, a young man. He's the youngest person in the whole prison, probably here, and he is our protagonist. So just recently, one of the drill sergeants in our last chapter, chapter 6, Silhouettes. No, actually, last chapter was The Legend of Arcturus. In our last chapter, the drill sergeant took him aside and kind of gave him the story of a tremendous space battle that the sergeant was involved in. The Sergeant XEROS character here is our devil in the story, and the character is engaged in a kind of weird Faustian bargain with him here. This story is told in a first-person past. It's a first-person narrative. Although we just had we have the only viewpoint shift in the entire story, which is where Xeros is narrating the story to a character. So we still stay pretty squarely in that point of view. But that's just kind of an aside there. It's like this 4,500 word chunk. The story overall is, I want to say, almost 50,000 words long, which is right around the comfortable length for a novel that, a single shot novel where you don't have some bullshit like book one and a series. I fucking hate serializations. I don't like trilogies for the most part. More and more, I'm trying to write these succinct stories that stick where they are, because like a lot of my books have been 700 or 800 pages long, and they're a bitch to edit, especially when they're harder to sell too. Like somebody picks that shit up. Oh man, that coffee is without the restraining effort of the half and half that I usually put in it, it's got me buzzing. So let's get down to it. A couple things about the editing here. I'm happy to take your suggestions. If I'm in the middle of rewriting a paragraph or something like that, frequently I'll get back to you at a later time there. I just see the chats that are coming up here. And everybody who participates in the editing here will at some point be on this leaderboard. Every edit that we take, we give you a point. And those are tallied up at the very end of the editing, and you are acknowledged on a special thank you page at the very beginning of the book, unless some asshole publisher picks it up, and I lose some agency in what I get to put in the book. But I would fight for that. Yeah, not a lot of writers edit in this way here, and I really get a lot of amazing support from some of my friends on the internet. And anybody who is assisting with this project is definitely my friend, because it's a labor of love. So anyhow, just for people like checking in, I know a few people will watch the back scroll of this motherfucker here. I got a message from Bradius yesterday, who said that he would love to be involved in the edit, which was real touching to me. Bradius had some great edits in both, I think, Gravid and Lemon Maybe. But Bradius has recently fixed his sleep schedule and doesn't want to fuck it up by waking up at like 4 a.m. every morning to edit with me. And I respect that 100%. But he was nice enough to say, hey, if you send me the manuscript, I'll let you know what I think. And I know he's going to come back with like a bunch of kind of niggling little errors, because Bradius is like a grammar person for the most part. But when I send off a manuscript to somebody, I'm generally looking for like their broad overview. I want to know anything that I got wrong factually. And it's like, oh, yeah, actually, orbital physics don't work like that, or that's not what a vagina looks like, or other things that I would have no way of knowing myself. And I'm looking for people's broad, like, I like this, the pacing was slow here, I didn't like this character, or like this broke my suspension of disbelief, or I was bored here. Those are the things that are super useful to yours truly. Anyhow, let's get down to it. So this is XEROS by Zach ZYZ, read by the author. And this is a live edit, day number 6, and we're working on chapter 7, The Garbage Lance. After XEROS told me the legend of Arcturus, the drills eased off for a while. The beatings were less vicious, and we went almost an entire month where no one was executed. I saw the other inmates getting sloppy. It made me tighten up instead. Mm-hmm. Watching the others get sloppy. Yeah, that doesn't quite track. Hi, it's Isabella from Sex Service. I was just calling to let you know that we received your contact lenses in stock. See, welcome to come and blank them, blank free. Thank you. Damn. Why aren't my sex contact lenses in stock? It's on that old JRE Discord, where you're welcome to come. Discord.gg/Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. I'm a moderator. The other inmates began to slide and get sloppy, but I didn't. I tightened up. I knew this prison yeah, that's better. We're gonna fall down dead. And that, I have to remember that this chapter is particularly in need of editing because it's one that I added later, right? If we looked at the previous chapter, I had a note where there's an interrogation scene, and I did not want the interrogation scene to fall directly after the previous scene, which is like this long space battle that's described in the, God, what is it? It's fucking, I guess it's in second person because it's XEROS talking directly at the reader as if they are a traitor, which is like a neat little POV thinger. An editor may not agree that it's a neat little POV thinger. They may say that that's a little piece of shit right there, but we'll see. I knew this prison pax couldn't last. You were the one. And so in the previous chapter, oh, who do we got right there? I forgot to pingy. Big rig. Oh yeah, shit. I forgot your server, Neggy. Well, that's my bad. Well, I'm glad you're here just the same. Also, don't want to spam your server. You're the only one that's like showed up from that server that I think might be interested. And if I don't get like a quasi-positive response from some of the people in the server, or if I'm not like a deep member of their community where I know everybody, I just post my shit once and then get the fuck out of there. I don't want to be, that guy who every day is like spamming your shit and then somebody comes across and all right, well, if I have your express permission, then hold on, let me just post it in this shit right here. Because I would love to get a few more peeps up in this motherfucker. Hell yeah. Come join me and Neggy in this nerdly endeavor. Well, hopefully I'm not too fucking insufferable there. I hate... and Groupoid was laughing and watching. He was quoting you. Oh, that's cool. Well, shout out to my boy N Groupoid. Right? What is an N Groupoid? I'm not a math person at all. Like I didn't graduate high school, so I'm always like higher math is always like in this arcane, wizardly realm to me, where I have like some inkling that there's great power in that knowledge, that you can do things to the world, but it's so like esoteric, and I'm like kind of peering in from the outside, being like, wow, what if I could understand that someday? But I don't have the fundamentals, and my brain just doesn't really. It never really worked that way for math. I found in other subjects in school, like I could just pick them up. I was like, this is not a problem. But in math, it didn't really come natural to me in the same way. So it was like no surprise I was lazy about it. Because as a child, I didn't fucking work at all. Like I had my only work ethic was for doing like physical work. But let's get back to it. You were the one. XEROS' story had captured my imagination. I couldn't stop daydreaming about steel wave carving their way through the stars. Oh, there's no comma there. If only I could have flown with them. I fantasized my scrubber was a TGZK burst, scouring collaborator scum off of XEROS, like mildew off a drain. Okay, cool. It's like a blob of points with symmetries and symmetries between symmetries. See, that sounds like the kind of shit where I would really like the visualization of it. I would be like, ooh, that's. I don't know if you watch my other show, we have Polyhurt there, who just has like he's created a script that like generates ASCII code out of different equations that he like punches into his computer machiner, and it's amazing. So TGZK, there it's it's an initialism made of the names of people who discovered gamma ray bursts, and we talk about it in the previous chapter. But it's essentially like this giant gamma radiation weapon that was aimed at Steel Wave. This is the fleet that XEROS was in, and that they were able to reflect with some mythological device that fucking deflects gamma rays. But essentially, their fleet rolled up to the Roche limit. I actually learned how to say Roche correctly yesterday, and I forgot it already. They rolled up with like a bunch of ships to the Roche limit of this planet, and they opened up with their planetary defense array, which was like this very powerful gamma weapon that should have sterilized everything in the fleet. But they had a shield generator that just reflected the radiation back at the planet and genocided an entire hemisphere of it. The Steel Wave, better for a fleet rather than Steel Wave. Daydreaming about the Steel Wave. Yeah, I see where you're coming from with the suggestion, and it makes it a little better, but it's a little less colloquial and kind of clunky in this usage right here. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I don't think I'm going to make that change just yet. You may be right. Like, that's one of those, like, 50-50s, where if we had more people in the audience and everybody was like, yo, do this. But to me, oh, shit. Let's make it a scrubber brush. I fantasized my scrubber brush was a TGZK burst, scouring collaborator scum off XEROS, comma. Is that a comma? Instead of mildew off the shower drain. Yeah, I don't know why we have a space there. Yeah, this is X instead of Y. So I don't think that we need a comma or anything, but definitely pages. All right, so this is news to me right here. Historically, the British had a fleet called the Grand Fleet, and the Germans had the High Seas Fleet, and Americans had a fleet called the Great White Fleet. So even back in those days, we were all about that white supremacy right there. So XEROS' story had captured my imagination. I couldn't stop daydreaming about Steel Wave carving their way through the stars. If only I could have flown with them. I fantasized my scrubber brush was a TGZK burst, scouring collaborator scum off XEROS instead of mildew off the shower drain. I woke rigid from a vivid dream of Mulang Chintzy looming over my blood. I woke up rigid from a vivid dream of Mulang Chintzy looming over my bunk and flashing a fanged grin as she commanded me to satisfy her. Damn. So Mulang is she-wolf. It's like a direct pulling it out of the Chinese right there. They were painted white for the grand exhibition. Damn. That's pretty wild right there. I feel bad for all the guys that had to paint those fucking boats. Painting a ship is the worst. Anything like on a ship, like any job that you have to do, just put it on a boat and it's twice as difficult. So, ugh. Yeah, back in the day when I used to be a welder and so forth, a few people, because I know how to scuba dive, and a few people were like, "Yo, you should get at that underwater welding, because that's where the real money is at." Those guys die all the fucking time, really and truly. They are just uh like lambs to the slaughter right there. Have I ever worked on a boat? Yeah, I've done like a little work on boats. Not enough to be like, yeah, I'm a boat dude, but I've like essentially my background is that like from the time I was like 12 years old, and even a little before there, but it was legal to work when I was 12. Every summer I just worked at a different part-time job, and I like worked as an electrician's apprentice and a roofer's apprentice and a general handyman, and I learned how to weld and do a bunch of different shit. I can do just about everything um, in like the construction of a house except the plumbing, and like plumbing is not hard. Um, I always found the idea romantic to go out to sea and shoot at seagulls. Yeah, fuck those seagulls. Um, honestly, like I was thinking for a little bit about writing a story about sort of like a one man submarine. This would be like kind of a water world type story where there's just been massive flooding and so forth, where the protagonist is in a one man submarine and he just goes around pillaging mega yachts that have survived the Great Deluge. And I thought that would be kind of cool. So I started off in oxyacetylene welding for the most part, learning and doing like art metal welding. And later I moved on to TIG and MIG. I never, no, MIG and stick welding. I never really got into TIG welding, and I always wanted to. But I live in a apartment building where I don't have access to a garage. If I had like a full garage, I would have a pretty significant metal shop down there, and I would just be working there all the time. That's when I get older. I'm gonna do that there. Make it a buddy comedy. I thought about that too. So many of my stories are just about single protagonist. Like Survival Mode is about a single protagonist. The Master Arcanist, although it becomes like kind of a buddy comedy later on, is like that. Hawks at the Diner is just like it's just a conversation. But because I'm a very solitary person, most of my narratives are about single people and barely relating to the world. Because um, so buddy comedy could be kind of interesting in the course of like a two man submarine or something like that, where they just go around really the piracy and like the hiding in like a underground cave and like trying to trying to dodge sonar and shit like that. The neat thing about that one to me too would be like all their technology being scavenged and like people just having access to like very different levels of weaponry and so forth. And That would be kind of cool. But I mean, we had submarine shit in survival mode too. Anyhow, we're not getting anywhere. I want to finish this chapter today too. So Suro's story had captured my imagination. I couldn't stop daydreaming about steel wave carving their way through the stars. If only I could have flown with them. I fantasized my scrubber brush was a TGZK burst, scouring collaborators' scum off Ursurus instead of mildew off the shower drain. And so that's like kind of a little throwback to like C beams and Blade Runner and shit like that. It's kind of like a shit that they would do back in the day in science fiction. Just throw out like some weird particle or ray. That is it. That is an improvement. So, all right. So cool. So you got a point right there. If we look at the scoreboard, you're now at 7. Almost there. Yeah, a fleet, it's a collective. Yeah, I think you're right. Let's see. I woke up riveted. I don't think we can have both rigid and vivid. I woke up rigid from a dream of Mulang Chintzy looming over my bunk. She flashed a fanged grin and commanded me to satisfy her. I could almost forget we were losing the war. So this is like a little abrupt right now. We're trying to say that this guy like essentially had a sex dream about like a woman that he's never seen, and that he's only heard XEROS describe. So I think we carved away. Wearing only the top half of her uniform, she flashed a fanged grin and commanded me to satisfy her. I don't want to get too apt pupil right here. To me, the only part of apt pupil that I really remember is the sex scene where it's a really compelling sex scene in apt pupil where the main character he's becoming friends with like this ancient Nazi, and the Nazi guy is like giving him like a stream of Jewish broads to experiment on, and his pecker is too small, so he gives him like a big dildo to it's like a penis sheath type dildo to wear. Like yeah, I'll never forget that shit. I was probably fucking 13 when I read it. Um, but so it's not a terrible idea to have Suros never seen a compelling sex scene. Well, I'll be damned. There was definitely some solid ones. I think when you're young, any mention of sex is like a compelling sex scene, and then as you get older, um, it's more and more difficult, and it's more like eye rolly for the most part. I used to put like so much more sex in my books, and it used to be like super explicit because I was a complete horn dog all the time. But now that I'm old and gray, I'm just much more interested in the power dynamic that's in a sex scene and how we're kind of prisoners to our animal natures. Like that becomes the interesting part to me. For the rest of the day, I struggled to keep that image from rising up at the worst possible moments. So we're just like using a little shrouded language to say that he's struggling to keep it in his pants. And then I want this to be on a new paragraph, right? The best sex scene is the one from Legend of the Meme Queen. I'll have to take your word for it. I don't think I'm gonna venture to read that one. What was it? What did I say that I wanted to fucking read the other night? Oh shit! There was some book people were mentioning. I was like, I should go ahead and read that, but then I forgot. I'll have to watch the stream because it was a compelling one, and like right now I'm just reading Bullfinch's mythology, and that's only I read like a one or two myths every night just to see how this like very Puritan Americanized guy interprets these ancient Greek myths. One of the funniest hentai mangas ever. All right, well I'll take your word for it. I could almost forget we were losing the war. Hold on, let me make sure this tracks. I woke up rigid from a dream of Mulang Chintzy looming over my bunk, wearing only the top half of her uniform. She flashed a fanged grin and commanded me to satisfy her. For the rest of the day, I struggled to keep that image from rising up at the worst possible moments. I could almost forget we were losing the war. Suros must have some plan to win. Why else would they be drilling us so hard? Full of a new hope, I began to seriously apply. I don't like seriously apply. Full of a new hope, I began to apply myself in flight training. I swiftly surpassed Pirate and left the others impossibly behind. Soon, comma, I was completing the runs in half Pirate's times, error-free. It left me with plenty of time to think. I would drift in space, grinding my toes against the footwell as I watched the others flounder through the blinking 100-meter buoy rings. Wait, one cummy, two cummy, three cummy. I'm daddy's princess, but I'm also a whore. Um, I don't like apply myself there either. Let's look at this. Um, Full of new hope, I began to get serious in flight training. Uh, Full of a new hope, I started to try my utmost in flight training. That doesn't track right either. I started taking the flight training seriously. Had he taken it seriously before? I mean, it's just what we want is like. No, I like this here. Um, I was full of a new hope. Before, I had been careful not to do too well in flight training. I like this too, where he was like throttling himself because the nail that sticks out gets hammered down, which is like my favorite Chinese proverb of all fucking time. Let's take a look. I could almost forget we were losing the war. XEROS must have some plan to win. Period. Why else would they be drilling us so hard? I started to believe again. No comma. This is passive voice. I started to believe again. Before, I had been careful not to do too well in flight training. I didn't want to stand out from the others. I stopped holding back and swift. Yep, that is a good one. Well done, Neggy. Got them points. Yep, a big 8. I started to believe again. Before, I had been careful not to do too well in flight training. I didn't want to stand out from the others. I stopped. I stopped holding back and swiftly surpassed Pirate. A week later, I was completing the runs error-free in half the time it took Murderous to fumble through the course. Nice. A pirate should be capitalized. And I think I even saw that, and I think I just typed it twice there. Collecting them points, you may catch up to Logic this morning there if he doesn't wake the fuck up. I started to believe again. Before, I had been careful not to do too well in flight training. I didn't want to stand out from the others. I stopped holding back and swiftly... It left me with plenty of time to think. I would drift in space, grinding my toes against the footwell as I watched the others flounder through the blinking 100-meter buoy rings. When I contact the agent, pretend you're black. So I actually tried that once. So I was desperate to try and sell Gravid, and I thought that the reason that like people weren't replying to me was just I'm a white man. So I created this whole alter ego of a young Hasidic Jewish woman who had written her first book, and where like I had a whole backstory where family didn't like writing and so forth. And I figured I would just play up the Jewy, 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 Jewa angle, and just see like if a member of the tribe would get anywhere. I got fucking nothing, right? It turned out that I actually just suck, and it had nothing to do with my identity, which I had kind of suspected, but it was good to have like some independent verification that people weren't just dissing me because I was fucking like of my identity. They just didn't think the book would sell, and they're right. Like that book was the Hugos loved that. People, well, I tried a few different identities to sell that one, to tell you the truth. Like I didn't just do it with that one thing. But I thought, see, what I wanted was I was trying to find an agent for it. I wanted to give them a story where they could be like, oh, I found this. Isn't it so sad? She's like locked in one of those cages in Williamsburg and about to be arranged married, and I could help her out of this situation there. But yeah, Jews do not like Hasids, and when you talk to like Reform Jews about Hasids, for the most part, they're like, you can hear like a tension in their voice there. And in New York, Hasids are like the gypsies of New York, where everybody is a little bit racist against them, because they don't. Anytime that you have a section of the populace that refuses to integrate, people will think it's 100% okay to be racist against them. That's just how the world works. It happens to the gypsies. It happens to the Jews. It happened to pretty much anybody who steadfastly refuses to integrate, except for the fucking Amish. Maybe people who live in Pennsylvania are like, these fucking Amish. But honestly, I don't have any bad feelings about the Amish. They seem cool to me. I'd like to know. I am aware that that's the case, but yeah, I wonder if like inherent race, because all the people that I like tried to query in this voice were Jewish. I mean, anybody that you reach out to in publishing, um, they're at least Jewish adjacent. It's just part of the industry. Like half the people in my writing group are Jewish, and I mean, it's also New York. It's very Judeo Semitico, but yeah, it was like an instructive thing for me, where you want to believe like, oh, the reason I'm not getting ahead is just because of my identity, um, and like I was swiftly disabused of that notion. It was just like, it's a hard fucking book to sell, and every agent worth their salt is looking at it and be like, I don't think I can make any money off of this motherfucker. The So the Amish do a couple of things, right? Like one, they have that Rumspringa where people are encouraged to be like, yo, if you want to get the fuck out of Amish, you can, right? And if I say I'm black, no, honestly, like it just doesn't. Although I will tell you, one publisher that I had like hoped would pick up on Gravid, they have fucking closed their queries to anybody who isn't black. It just says that on their page. Like, we're accepting queries only from black people at this time, which is, like, it's their company. They can do what they want and everything. But it definitely makes me feel less of somebody when they, like, I mean, but if you want to think about it, like, what if they were black and they were just like, yeah, we black authors is our jam, right? Which is how like a lot of magazines and so forth are. Like, I don't walk up to like the Daily Call, that like Muslim bean pie selling type paper, and like expect to see a lot of white authors up in the final call. But what company is that? I'm not going to name and shame, but they're not the only one. There's many people in the industry where they're just during like the whole BLM craze, they were like, oh, let's do our part, and like amplify black voices and so forth. And like you see a lot of that in New York, like women who are like, if you want to date me, please be serious about tearing down our institutionally racist structures and so forth. One of the things that I find is that often people who will say stuff like that have like a very naive view of the world, and they don't understand, like, when you tear down a piece of infrastructure, what comes next isn't necessarily better just by virtue of being new, and frequently it's inferior just by virtue of it hasn't been tested by time, and a lot of people are going to suffer as a consequence of that. Like there is so much evil in the police. It's like it's a inherently evil act to tell people what they can and cannot do and to force your will on them, but also an inherently necessary act. Otherwise, people will just murder each other all fucking day long. And the U.S. police are like particularly evil, just because we have so many fucking guns here. So it makes them afraid, and fear is the root of all evil. And so it's like a tough one there. But anytime somebody's like, yeah, let's defund the police and so forth. Well, we tried that shit in New York. Like, they shifted the funding around and so forth. They released a bunch of convicts, and now murders are climbing up like crazy. And that like shitty crime just poisons everywhere. It just seeps into every part of the culture and so forth. So often when I see people who espouse these ideas right there, I like to talk to them. I'm like, well, what do you think will replace the police when we defund the police? And like, oh, well, they have like some wishy-washy. Well, the community will come together and self-police. And you can point them to examples of large, non-homogenous communities where people have attempted to self-police. It doesn't work out especially well for them. So most people like that are actually racist and have a guilty conscience. Well, I think everybody has a degree of racism inherent in them. And everybody has like this thing where, they want their savior to look like them. There's this very like whispery, and it's a very seductive whisper that you're the center of the universe and that you, like, God made you in their own image. And it's very fun to believe, hey, my tribe is the best in nationalism, and or just like our ideological bent is the right one. Like, the people from my college are the ones that understand how the world really is. So Negi says, I'm not racist at all. Not even a little bit. You're in like the UK, right?
maybe just all Americans are a little bit racist. I can't really speak for the British, but I sure did hear a lot of "oh, you fucking packies" the whole time I was over there, and most of the British that I met were racist as shit in some way, shape, or form. So I'm press X to doubt there, but it may just be like a level of definition. Like if you don't think like the minor aversion that you sometimes feel to people who are different from you is like a form of racism, then you might just be like, well, that's not actually racism. That's just like a little twingy thing, and be like, yeah, I would hire a black person or date a black person, or I think it's fair. Like if you would fuck somebody from that race, you're not super racist. You're just a teeny bit racist. No, you're from Manhattan. Oh, you're American? Yeah, I don't know why I think you're whatever there. But oh, I'm surprised you're not in my board game club. Uh, but but yeah, like it's one of those things where you really have to try to see it through somebody else's eyes and like talk with their experiences and so forth. And like I do think everybody's got a little twinge of it there just by virtue of who we are. And that might be me trying to one of the things that you see a lot. I'm just thinking about it. I guess this is the Saturday morning conversation hour here. One thing I see a lot is crazy women on Tinder who will say something like, I won't date anybody who's not in therapy." Right? Does everybody need to be in therapy? No. I know like plenty of people who are just super nice, and their lives are pretty good, and they're perfectly content to overcome their own struggles. And a therapist or somebody from the outside trying to help them reconcile it would do more harm than good. There are some people who are by nature very like steady, and the emotional support that they need they receive through like family members or a church, and a therapist would just meddle. Right? Therapists, like as much as they might be trying to help and so forth, they have a vested interest. They're not objective either, and they have an idea of what people should be like. And the most of these people are just trying to do good, honestly and truly. But inadvertently, I have seen them do tremendous harm to people. But there are people who think because I'm in therapy and I'm crazy in this fucking way or have this struggle, everybody therefore should be in therapy because I had like a positive experience with this. Now it's okay to say people should try it and see where it gets them and so forth. You can always espouse the view that you should try new experiences and make up your mind for yourself. Um, maybe she meant the rapey. Everybody should be the rapey. I guess so. But so it could be the same thing here, where like I definitely have some. I grew up in the deep South. I had some terrible experiences as a child. So definitely within me there is like the core of some racist shit from like way back in the day, and I'll drop like words. I did like this super crazy pirate radio show for like the longest time. And I don't think anything, just, dropping some slurs and so forth. But at the same time, I've dated a number of black women, have like a number of people I think are really good friends who are black. And, I would hire somebody and work with somebody who's black. And like I have always lived in black neighborhoods by choice. And I like the food and the music. Um, does that like give me carte blanche to just drop the N word all day, every day? In my mind, yes, but most people would not agree for the most part. Um, and I'm like very cognizant of the fact that like I only see through my one perspective, right? And I can listen to others and hear about their experiences, and they're not just making this shit up, right? I mean, there's an element of mass delusion in some of the rioting and shit that we saw, and I think a lot of it is overblown. It doesn't match with the actual statistics, but emotions don't have to match with statistics. There's something going on that these people do not like. That probably needs to change at some point, or at least we need to give them a way to deal with it. But I have to tell you, this isn't really relevant to the story that we're trying to edit. Oh, I came to New York for a woman. That's why I do everything in my life. Like just some woman somewhere, so I go there. Mm. Ah. In fact, if I take off, like I'm planning to in October, it'll be one of the first big moves that wasn't motivated by women in in my life. Like where it's not just a. Although I'm sure that my plan is just a quest for trim. But grinding. So this is a critical. Let me get back to this, and let's get back into the editing mine. As much as I like to blog, I do. We have to get through this chapter today, and it won't happen if I'm just talking about myself. I could complete a run error-free in half the time it took Murderous to fumble through the course. It left me with plenty of time to think. I would drift in space, grinding my toes against the footwell as I watched the others flounder. Through the buoy rings. I like to imagine... I'm just taking out that 100-meter thing there because it's too much. I like to imagine I was at the helm of the Despicable, warming up my 3-meter cannon to put these mutinous dogs out of their misery. The shells are... let's just put it main cannon. Well, there were 3-meter shells there. Warming up my cannons. I like to imagine I was at the helm of the Despicable, warming up my cannons to put these mutinous dogs out of their misery. So we use the word these there. Wait. Instead of having this part narrated, show it instead of no, this is not like remember it's him telling the story right here. So this shit is all in this character's head, and we want to tie in his thoughts about why this is happening to and the story is narrated through the character. So we never have like that third person viewpoint where we could show like a montage of him doing better and better. Everything has to be filtered through this character's recollections for the most part. And so like while it's an apropos criticism that like we could just be showing these actions, but like a few things are happening here that you don't know. Like there's a major plot point contained within this paragraph that doesn't really work elsewhere. And what I'm really interested in here is not like providing a montage. I'm interested in what this character is thinking and feeling, right? This like childlike, he imagines that he's like sitting at the helm of this destroyer about to blow all of his squad mates out of the fucking water. And what we do later in the chapter, also, the shit that we're getting into there is about how his squad perceives him and so forth. So this is not an action novel, by and large, even though we've had a lot of action happening on. What we're concerned with is the mind state of the character and their internal development as they make a big decision. This is more Sophie's Choice than Starship Troopers, if that makes sense. What if it was like Sophie's Ship Troopers and it was like the buggers were just alien fetuses and they were like in drop ships flying out to fucking abort them all over the galaxy. I would fucking watch the shit out of that. Hell yeah. The other inmates noticed the shift in my demeanor and they weren't happy about it. The other inmates noticed the shift in my demeanor. The other inmates noticed the shift in my demeanor and they weren't happy about it. The harder I worked, the worse they looked. If we had another purge, I might be the death of them. I was at the helm of Despicable. No. It has to be the Despicable there. It doesn't work without the definite article. And I know what you're saying there. I know like what you're getting at, where it's like I was at the helm of Dauntless. I just don't think it. Although I will tell you that the person who's going to edit this is like very into like naval fiction, so he'll do a good job of that whole thing. Then I need to italicize the. Oh, fuck, you're right. Oh, you're absolutely, and I don't want to italicize the. Yeah, that's a point. Yeah, you're 100% right because it would have to be part of. Well, it's not part of the title. Let's see how we. I think we actually call it the despicable earlier. Let's roll back. Shang Jiang Z is a collaborator sympathizer. Love that shit. Let me see. Oh, I love the Century Rain. Let me see. No, wait. This was such a fucking crazy chapter. Oh, I loved it. I love the part where they just turn their guns on the fucking traitors and they genocide this world in an act of. I like the fact that we call this the Battle of Hydroperistate. Oh, easy Aquarii. And so this is just such a cool chapter. Okay, so we use the only two ships. The Tabing. Yeah. Yeah, let's take out these Tabing and Despicable. Okay, cool. So let's just take out all these definite articles and then make them just because we're using the italicized names. The captain of Despicable. The captain of Despicable answered swiftly by powering up his main cannon. I love the idea. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's a good change, and we make like several changes as a ripple back from there. It just sounds cooler. You're right. Um, I love that fucking scene where she's like, "Oh, I'll just reorganize my fleet," and fucking blows all the moles and shit to hell. Oh, loving it. There's so much fucking action in that scene, and we have all that action there because we're not gonna have as much action in subsequent ones. That's like one of the high points of this whole thing, and then we get more into like this introspective character examination thing here. And I like this too, where he's excelling, and the other inmates start to turn on him for flying too high. And if you've ever been like a day laborer or something, and you're working too hard, the other guys will like turn to you and be like, "Yo, fucking gringo, what are you doing? Like, we got to do this all day. Keep a pace with the rest of us, or we'll fucking turn on you." Because if you work too hard, they have to work hard too, and the boss sees it happening. And there's a lot of that's one of the things that I always saw on like work crews and so forth. Guys just like one dude kind of sets the pace and everybody will average around and like it, and people don't want to work harder than they have to. You're going to get paid the same whether you shovel 5 buckets or 10 buckets an hour, and it's just how much of you is left at the end of the day to take home there, which is kind of like a shitty economy too, because it working slower makes the day last fucking forever too. And so it's like a clash of two very different like working styles. Anyhow, that's probably where that whole thing came from. Conversations began to stop when I drew near. Eyes were always on me. Their eyes were always on me. Let's move this up. I knew the others were planning something, comma, their eyes were always on me. And this is like a huge element of like POW camps and so forth. The paranoia that starts setting in, that the others are informing on you, that they're just trying to get at like your rations or swindle you, or they're going to form together into a gang and start beating you up and so forth. These are like neat prison dynamics that are super interesting to me. All right, what do we got right here? Conversations began to stop when I drew near. I knew the others were planning something. Their eyes were always on me. Finally, the tension got to me. I spent a night awake, clutching the lock knocker under my thin blanket. So we've gotten into what this is a little bit earlier. It's like a big fucking pipe wrench that they use to bang on the fucking airlock latch so it'll open. Is there ass rape prison dynamics? So one of the things that is established later in the story, I'm not going to spoil it for you by telling you, is that they have all been on like essentially libido suppressants. They're feeding these guys saltpeter or whatever the fuck you want. They're basically pumping these guys full of something to suppress sexual thoughts, which is something that they do to you in the military. And basic training, they literally do this shit to you. Every single guy that was there is like, hey, my dick doesn't work anymore. And they all like, and you know, like it's something that you know because you're all waking up. It's like 60 dudes in a fucking barracks, and all of you are like, yo, like wake up early in the morning. It's like, hey, I'm at like, you know, full flag, and I'm at half mast. What the fuck is going on here? And it wears off over time. Like you become inured to whatever the fuck they're putting in you. Some people think it might just be stress, but I swear to God, they're putting some shit in the food. They make you drink like this weird Gato juice shit, and it doesn't taste anything like fucking Gatorade. It's full of something, and they're constantly like inoculating you with different shit. And yeah, I would not be, and you're their property at that point, which is something that we could really get across in this story, how the military views you as property first and as a human being like fourth or fifth. Oh yeah, I was in the military. Not for long. I didn't like it, but yeah, like I mean, I couldn't have written this story if I hadn't gone through basic training. I spent a night awake, clutching the lock knocker under my thin blanket, but none of them had the stones to strangle me. This should be italicized. Another disappointment. Did I get kicked out? We parted, like I wanted out and they wanted me out. So it was mutual. I got an honorable discharge, so for what that's worth. But yeah, I did not belong in the military, and it was very apparent to everybody there. I did some crazy shit while I was there, but that's for another time. Instead, they started sticking me with the worst jobs, ignoring our labor rotations. I knew better than to complain. Any display of weakness would only make it worse. And this is where our character is like very precocious here, and maybe too precocious, right? It could be something where a sci-fi version of my, well, what do you think these books are? You know, all my books are like based on something that happened to me. Every single one of them is these are just like kind of like my hopes and dreams and everything, but they're all filtered. Like when you're reading this book, it's filtered through this POV of a character that I've created, and everything that character sees is filtered through the filter of me, like the author, the things that I think are important to put in there and choose. And that's filtered through the lens of this editing process where different people can be like, oh, I think this, I think that, you know, that we should have this, we should have that, and so forth. And then it's going to be filtered through like a professional editor who takes out other stuff there. And then it might be filtered through a fucking publishing house that has a different viewpoint of what we should include and what chapters should be in there and so forth. And then it goes into somebody's fucking brain and it's filtered through all their experiences. We're like fucking cows with four stomachs where this thing is digested over and over and over again. And the final viewpoint, it could be so different from mine. There could be somebody who only reads verbs. There are people who like they don't care about the action. And they just read the descriptive parts and they just forget about everything. There could be somebody who's half paying attention to this audiobook, like driving their car, and they just get little filaments through their day. Like only one image from the entire book might stick with somebody for years and years and years like that. And to me, that's so cool. Like these layers of perception here. And what I find with books are there are some people who they just get it. Like the way that I have written it appeals to something deep within the core inside of them, and it resonates, And when I talk with them, it's as if they are reading my fucking mind. Like they're seeing all the things that I was seeing when I was doing it. They relate to it on a deep level. Most people that read the book and be like, "Oh, that's cool." They relate on this like different plane, or they come away with the book with an impression that I could never have taken. Like I've seen people relate to certain characters that I put in where I thought the character was just a throwaway, and it meant something deep and compelling to that person. And that's like the most fascinating thing about this whole process is just how many layers there are to the onion and how different like every single person who reads this book is going to come away with a completely different experience from it, and like some of them will relate it to me, and that's amazing. So this one is based on like a lot of military experiences that I had and a recurring sort of daydream that kind of haunted me for a lot of 2020 that I just needed to get down. So here we have a spot where actually, hold on. Let's check that out. No, so we could have that. I knew better than to complain. So it's a spot where we're cramming too much in. I think so. I'm not going to put that on. And see, this is where you can see that I've stated this two ways. Their plan would backfire eventually. I was sure their plan would backfire eventually. It didn't take long. Oh, we just have like an extra. It didn't take long. During morning assignment, Murderous marched up to me with the bayonetta de basura, shouldered like a rifle. I like that we've given a name to the garbage lance. So my Spanish is not superb. So hopefully this makes some kind of fucking sense here. During morning assignment, Murderous marched up to me with the bayonetta de basura, shouldered like a rifle. This was a 2-meter hook steel pole we used to clean the compactor gears of the refuse chutes. I suppressed the urge to groan. RC duty was a filthy, dangerous job. Wait, what the fuck is RC duty? I don't know. Oh, refuse chute. I should have been able um, to like get from there to there. Yeah, so we have to make it suppress the urge to groan. Refuse chute duty was a. Oh, let's make it RC duty. There, yeah, it just tracks better. I suppressed the urge to groan. RC duty was a filthy, dangerous job. The automatic mechanism that used to purge the refuge chutes had been deemed a security risk and disabled. So now, anytime a chute went down, a pair of us had to get in there with the bayonetta while the gears were running. This needs to be italicized. One slip meant getting chewed up and spat into space. You're on chutes today, XEROS pet. With who? I asked. It was a 2-man job. You're on chutes today, Murderous repeated. I'd like to have like a shit-eating grin. You're on shoots today, Murderess repeated, grinning at me. I took the pole from her, wondering how long that smile would last after I impaled her. I looked at the other inmates, wondering if any would speak up for me. This was beyond unfair. It was stupid. It had to be her idea. Pirate's lower lip was quivering, but he remained mute. So be it. Okay. And so you remember how we were talking about show, not tell, right? A little bit earlier. This is the part where we're showing what's going on, where we put him into this situation where, like, I want to show that the others have turned on him. So I give him this duty, which is like dangerous, and it's not something that one person can do. And he's physically small, right? And just the last person that should be doing this duty on their own. And so this is where we show it, where he's like a kid almost holding this pole, being like, how the fuck am I going to clean out these chutes? As I stared into the crusty teeth of the gear bar with my garbage lance, I weighed my options. In a way, Murderess had fucked herself. I could twiddle my thumbs all day and roll on her when the drills came to ask why the chutes weren't working. I figured there was a 100% chance I'd take a beating, 25%. It's not a chance, it's a certainty. There was a 100% certainty I'd take a beating, and a 25% chance the drill would feed me into the chute afterward. But I was certain whatever I got, Murderess would share my fate. It was a suboptimal play. I could snitch directly to XEROS, but then I really would be XEROS' pet. I could never win back the other inmates if I went that route. I'd become a permanent pariah. I would become a permanent pariah. I suspected they didn't actually hate me. They hated themselves for fucking up. I was just a convenient proxy. I like cirrhosis. It sounds like cirrhosis of the liver. Cirrhosis of the liver. But then I really would be Cirrhosis' pet. Oh yeah, that does sound better. Cirrhos pet. Maybe I can make that cirrhosis pun later on. I always write S's for non-plurals. It's one of the things where it is standardized. If we change this here, we got to change it everywhere else in the book. Where? Hold on, let's do it. There are 17 instances of this in the book. It does sound better, honestly. All right, here. Let's do that for the final, because we have to look at each one of them. Yeah, every other possessive, because we can't just do a find and replace there, because we might have used other contractions with Suros where that just wouldn't pop up. I need to like visually look at each one of them. This is one where I really wish like some of our other editors were here, because all right, hold on. Because I think that this is a personal preference thing to you, and I would love to get more eyes on the thing. But I do like the way that it sounds as you're reading it. Cirrhosis. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better, and I'm very very cognizant of how things sound when they're read, because most, I think, we're getting in closer to like audiobooks being more important than written books, which is why I've really got to start putting out audiobooks. I suspected the others didn't actually hate me. I suspected most of the other inmates didn't actually hate me. They hated themselves for fucking up. I was just a convenient proxy. But if I snitched, that would change. Yeah, well, thank you. Well, like for now, I have a good voice. You know, it could always be taken away from you. Like if they cut out your tongue for fucking up inspection. Or if, you know, you just get, if you eat too much pussy and get that throat cancer. R.I.P. Michael Douglas. Uh, as I considered, I realized XEROS wouldn't even help me. The weakness would disgust him. He'd probably end me himself. I didn't want to go out that way. So this is like a character building moment where the character, in fact, we should probably have, as I stared into the crusty teeth of the gear maw with my garbage lance, I felt like crying. Mm-hmm. Felt like crying. Even with two people, this was the absolute worst duty. I like this. So, what I'm doing here is I want to have this moment of reflection where he's just like, I can't fucking do this. And I want him to be like working himself back up here. So there's like a little bit of an arc and some drama here. One of the notes that I have for myself in the story is that this guy is like really young, you know, and because I'm like an older person writing him, where I have like all this fucking confidence that's, you know, unmerited, but like I have all this confidence as an older person, you know, like I'm not afraid of shit because, you know, if I die, fuck it, I'd rather go to hell, because I'm a real piece of shit. It ain't hard to fucking tell. But young people don't have that, you know. They believe that they're immortal and so forth, but it's easier to like make them upset and knock them down. So be it. 15 minutes later, I stared into the crusty teeth of the gear bar with my garbage lance. Even with two people, this was the absolute worst. No, we need duty there. We need duty because what the word duty is doing, it was the absolute worst. We need it to be the worst duty. I just need that word in there, like hammering in. This is something that they have to do, and I want to hammer in the unfairness that he has been taken out of his rotation. 15 minutes later. What if we just do later? We need like a bridge. Yeah, let's do this. So be it. I shouldered the garbage lance and headed for the chutes. When I got the hatch open, I stared into the crusty teeth of the gear maw and despaired. Even with two people, this was the absolute worst duty. I agree 100%. That did sound awful, and this is better. So I'm going to give you a point there. Even with two people, this was the. We could call it refuge chute duty. When I got the hatch open, I stared into the crusty teeth of the gear maw and despaired. Even with two people, this was the absolute worst duty. I wasn't strong enough. I could barely get the chute open on my own. Cool. I like this there. That change there is great because it's a fucking garbage chute, and I don't think I even talk about. But the whole corridor should be funky at this point because the thing is all, like on a ship, like on a space station, ventilation is not going to be stellar. So I like that. We don't have to get into it and like deeply describe like the baby shit smell of this thing. The chute was ripe. If there was one consolation, it was knowing that Murderess had fucked herself. I could twiddle my thumbs all day and roll on her when the duel. Yeah, that's good. It was a suboptimal play. I could snitch directly to XEROS, but then I really would be XEROS's pet. I could never win the other inmates back if I went that route. Okay, cool. Maybe it was wishful thinking. But I suspected most of the other inmates didn't actually hate me. They just hated themselves for fucking up. Maybe it was wishful thinking, but I suspected most of the other inmates didn't actually hate me. They hated themselves for fucking up, and I was a convenient proxy. But if I snitched, that would change. So this is, the other inmates do hate him. I'll just tell you right now. But very few people, like, truly understand when others hate them. They always think that they're, like, misunderstood or, shout outs to, like, I'm looking in the IRC chat for LRH. There's a dope fucking ASCII that, I forget that guy's name. He's like one of the, Chaos is posted there. It's listed as PSYOP at the moment there. There's a big ass skull. Let me make sure that I'm not neglecting anyone. I'm not. Because we're gonna run kind of late today, honestly. If I snitched, that would change. As I considered it, I realized XEROS wouldn't even help me. My weakness would disgust him. He'd probably end. Weakness disgusted him. He'd probably end me himself. I didn't want to go out that way. I like this. I like the his recognition of the character. He should have like sort of this outsider's insight into what makes other people tick. It's a core part of the character here. And when we add this note right here, this changes the whole dynamic right there, where he is humanized a little bit by having this moment of weakness where he wants to cry and just like sob against. That's the childish point that I want to hit on, and I don't have to like hammer it in, right? The character doesn't have to be at the point of being pathetic, but every hero should have their moments of doubt, so that people can relate to. Because like I have moments of doubt, like, you know, is it really a good idea to raw dog this fat girl? But you know, you just got to go through with it. I hope it was a good idea. Oh. Oh, this is great. I forgot how this. So we went too deep. There's nothing left to do but figure out a way to do it myself. There was nothing left to do but figure out a way to clean the chute myself. I tried to visualize how all the gears and the armatures inside worked, how they would react when I cleared the jam. When I'd done this with a partner, one hooked the jam, the other helped yank them back in. I was going to have to figure out I need to figure out how I could do that alone without getting sucked into the gears. It was a lot of fiddling. It took a lot of fiddling, propping up the hatch with a mop and wedging the ceiling ring with the lock knocker. Then I had to crawl halfway into the chute tethering myself with an extension cord shibaried into a makeshift harness. I don't think I can get away with using shibaried. Fuck me. Negi knows what this is all about right there. I'm gonna leave it in, just because it's funny to me to have that in there. But you can't do that. I know. I just want it. All right, let's. It took a lot of fiddling. It took a whole morning of fiddling, propping up the hatch with a mop and wedging the sealing ring with the lock knocker. Then I had to crawl halfway into the chute, tethering with myself with an extension cord shibaried into a makeshift harness. I like that. We're keeping it. The first time I tried breaking up the jam, the gear freed so quickly the garbage lance was nearly ripped out of my hands. When I tried breaking up the jam, the gears freed up so quickly the garbage lance was nearly ripped out of my hands. When I tried breaking up the jam, the gears freed up suddenly and nearly ripped the and almost ripped the garbage lance out of my hands. It took all my strength to hang on. I nearly dislocated my shoulders. Uh, when I climbed out of the chute, I had to hug my knees and weep for real. If I lost my grip and let the bayonetta get ripped into space, I might as well have hopped in right after it. If I'd lost my grip and let the bayonetta get ripped into space, I might as well have hopped in after it. Losing a tool meant getting sculled. One by one, I worked the other compactor heads free. I took my time with the other chutes, slowly working at them until every muscle in my body I want to use muscle fiber here, just to get a more meaty. Wait, he says terrible. Could have been super awesome ASCII. What did I miss? Like the bottom part of it looks cool. All right, I'll go up to it. Yeah, this is good. When I climbed out of the chute, I had to hug my knees and weep for real. If I lost my grip and let the bayonetta get ripped into space, I might as well have hopped in after it. I call my cock the compactor as well. What are you, just fucking packing that fudge? Hell yeah. You know why, right? Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Losing a tool meant getting sculled. One by one, I worked the other compactor heads free. I took my time with the other chutes, slowly working at them. Slowly chipping at the jams until every muscle fiber in my body was screaming. I got a screaming muscle fiber for you. Oh, yeah. It was better to be sore than spat into space. At the end of the day, I dragged myself to the showers, scuffed to hell and covered in a second skin of grease and gunk. The squadron was already there, sporting a fresh crop of bruises. There was a purple-green starburst hematoma on Murderous's right tit that caught my eye. That had to be XEROS handiwork. I had to grin. I knew this would happen. What the fuck are you smiling about? Murderous hissed. Hop on and find out, I said, grabbing my crotch. For a second, it looked like she might pounce. I like go for the throat. So we can't. Am I saying that I ass fuck muscle men? I don't think I'm hot enough to ass fuck muscle men. Like muscle men could do better. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like you're trying to be crude. I am trying to be crude. Here, this is a joke. Like this is him just fucking with her because he spent all. I don't know if you've ever done like real hard manual labor in your life for like days and days. At the end of a fucking, there's a reason why. Like construction workers like, hey baby, I got something for you here. Like that kind of fucking work drains all the oxygen out of your brain. It makes you stupid. Like doing hard physical labor, and it lowers your level of discourse. I remember once I was like digging in a fucking pit with some day laborers. We were like illegally excavating a basement, and the asshole who had me doing this work is like, what are you doing in that pit? I'm like, I'm digging. He's like, I don't pay you to fucking dig. I pay you to tell these guys to dig. And it's like, you know, like if you're working, you can't think. And that guy was an asshole, right? He was very exploitive. He just fucking treated his workers like dog shit. But he was right, man. When you're working hard, when you're laboring, you're not thinking. You know, you're not coming up with ideas and so forth. A right tit in Britain means a clear idiot. I like that. I like that. I'm going to keep it in there because she is a right tit. Nevada bill would allow tech companies to create governments. Oh, good for them. Yeah, why don't we just make them full citizens? Fucking Citizens United. That shit has got to go, man. Like a few things have just got to change in this economy, or we're all gonna fall apart. I mean, there are like some serious like remedies if we could get away with them, where we would fix a lot of shit in a hurry. But I'm not trying to get political. The fuck are you smiling about? Murderous hissed. Hop on and find out, I said, grabbing my crotch. For a second, it looked like she might go for the throat. For a second, it looked like she might try and tear my eyes out. I like that better. It makes her more of a harpy. But Pirate guffawed so loud it startled us both. Soon the others were all laughing. The moment passed. I was too filthy to fight anyway. After that, the other inmates stopped trying to sabotage me. People stopped listening to Murderous, and we went back to the regular rotations. The next day, we were in the ship bay. The others were sweeping. Pirate and I had climbed into the gantry to clean up a winch battery that had exploded. We were supposed to swap it for a spare, but there were none left in the supply room. The drill who let us in only shrugged when I asked where we could find another. Most of the shelves were bare. Up in the gantry, 30 meters in the air, Pirate and I were wearing rags over our mouths. We were cleaning up the corrosive residue with plastic scrapers. What happened to you yesterday? I asked, my voice low. We would pull our heads back to breathe, take a deep breath, and then scrape for a bit before coming up for air. So this is another like legacy of fucking doing hard physical work. I have been in this situation so many times. So a gantry is like rigging that a crane is suspended from. Just imagine that it's like a truss that you might have a pulley or something like that suspended from. I think actually a gantry always involves a pulley. Ganty. What the fuck is... Wait, what is... Halibut Catty Ganty? What the fuck is that? Just a pinch recipe. Not my recipe. What makes it Ganty? So it's got sour cream, mayonnaise, chopped onion, parsley, paprika, white wine for marinating. Oh, okay, so it's just like a cream. So I didn't know what a Catty Ganty is. So a gantry is a bridge-like overhead structure with a platform supporting equipment such as a crane or whatever. So here's like an image that's pretty close to what we're fucking thinking about right here. So there's like a gantry, like you would have it at a shipyard or something like that. And this crane, the hoist that moves back and forth. So it's just like a crane in, yeah, it's also apparently a character in Zelda. I forget what author it was, but some author had fucked up and included in their serious book like something that had obviously come from a Zelda wiki. We were lolling about that a little bit ago. Anyhow, real talk. So pages. We would pull our heads back to breathe, take a deep breath. We would pull our heads back to breathe, suck in a deep breath. My voice low. We would pull our heads back, suck in a deep breath, and then scrape for a bit before coming up for air. So they're just like... I've fucking done that. Like where they're like covering their face with fucking masks because there are no respirators. I got the story out of Pirate one puff at a time. So this is where you could have like and so forth in between each of his sentences. I don't want to fucking type that out. We were on our way here to sweep the bay. You could do puff. No, I'm not gonna do that shit. One huff and puff at a time. I like that. Yeah. One of my favorite lines is where in The Wire of all fucking time is where Omar Little is like looking up at this second story window. And he's like, "Give it up, or I'll huff and puff." Like the shotgun and shit. Oh, and they throw down the bag of drugs. Hell yeah. Oh, this is such a good series. We were on our way here to sweep the bay. Rehnquist and Nordahl ambushed us in the corridor and press-ganged us into cleaning the projector room. Rehnquist had a black eye. Even the drills aren't safe from XEROS now. I knew at once what had happened. I bet you missed the rust on the ceiling bolts, I guessed. Pirate's eyebrows shot up in surprise. She. So she is just yes. That was Corrupt's fuck up. What a beating. I wish you'd been there. To catch the slip up, I mean. Not to share the beat. Pirate took a deep breath and went back in. Chipping at a clump of gel that had partially crystallized. Sparks flew off of it. I could smell the ozone through my mask. Pirate pulled away and I took a deep breath to take my turn. It was that Xiandao. What is a Xiandao? It's murderous. It's a portmanteau of Z and Yindao with cunt. And this is one where we need to check it with a Chinese speaker, whether it would ever make sense to combine these two things. But it just is meant to mean evil cunt. So this is one where we would put it in a glossary. Because we're just, when you make up fucking words, I think you should have like a glossary at the back of your book. So we'll have a glossary for this book. So, because I want to use shit like Z and Dao and so forth. So. I don't know what the fuck is going on that all my books need glossaries right now. But yeah, Space Tards definitely needed one. I don't think anything else needs I don't think we have any like made up words in Lemon maybe. And we probably have some, but that's not bad enough to need a fucking glossary. It was that Z and Dow's stupid idea to put you on shoots. I argue it against it, but nobody listened. They all think I'm a fool, Pirate sighed. I nodded as I worked the scraper. I bet she's next, I said, when I came up for air. I huffed. Now that her star had fallen, I was sure Murderess would do something crazy and get herself locked. Pirate paused, then shook his head. I think Glutton. I think it's Glutton. You want to bet a meal on that? I ventured. Glutton's times were trash, but Murderess was more volatile than the gunk we were scraping. Easy money, Pirate said. Under his mask, I was sure he was grinning. I like that. So we're bringing like Pirate and Trader together, and the two of them are betting a meal on which inmate is going to be the next to get executed. So I really like that I like that they're developing some camaraderie. I like that Pirate is like self-aware that the others all think he's a fucking fool, and just he and Trader have this sort of understanding, and that'll come up later in the story. And Pirate is one of the characters where I want to get a read on how people feel about Pirate as a character, and I want to. We make some big choices with Pirate later on, and they're ones that readers maybe won't like. So I don't want to foreshadow too hard on that, but I would like to know what people think about that whole thing. All right, so we got through this chapter, even though it was just me blogging about my gay life the whole time. I bet it's going to be Pirate who gets executed. Everybody gets fucking executed. As XEROS, every single fucking person in the story gets executed. I'm just putting that out there. Oh, that's the pussy alarm. It's ringing. You got to have a buddy for the main character. I really don't have to have the buddy. I really don't. So we only got through 1638 words today, and we spent. Well, let me put in 1638 first. So Negi is the big winner in the and then we have been doing this since 7:12 a.m. It is currently 9:06 a.m. Which means that we had 1 hour and 54 minutes. All right, well that's we basically edited half as much as I normally would right here, but like a couple of factors. One, like the night after show, I don't work as hard, just because I was up late, and so for two, like our homies aren't there. Why don't they kill Suros Guten Tag? They think about it later on in the story, but at this point, right, they're outnumbered by the drills. Drills have access to weaponry and so forth. I didn't take my Adderall or whatever. I gotta tell you, I had to quit fucking Adderall. I didn't have Adderall. I had like Ritalin L whatever. because I look back at all the writing that I did when I was on it, and I was like, this is fucking garbage. There was so much like minute detail, and I thought it was so inspired when I was writing it, but it was just shit. And I find that I do my best writing just like with a couple cups of coffee instead, so that I'm not like so spun out. But we got a ways up here. We're almost to like a third of the story completed. Well, no, we're not. We're getting up there. So chapter 8 is the interrogation. So you can start to really think about what's going on. So let's just like yeah, it makes you sound more confident. I just like to resonate on this chapter because I'm really happy with it. This chapter didn't used to be in the story, and it was one where I was like, I need to foreshadow some things. I need to build up to some of the relationships that are going to happen later. I need to have some character development of Trader. This chapter does all those things. Yeah, it doesn't make you better. It makes you maybe not more confident. It makes you more enthusiastic, but it doesn't give you any abilities that you didn't have before, right? And it makes you less able to distinguish between what's good and what's bad. So it's almost like being drunk in a way. But anyhow, fuck it. Yeah, I just had to learn that the hard way, and I have like a long ass book where there's still like really shitty parts of it, because I wrote them whacked on Ritalin. It's very similar to cocaine. Like a lot of these uppers have some of the same personality traits, and I don't want to talk shit on these people because I'm drinking like a ton of coffee every day, and I'm doing it because I need that amp up effect to get this shit done. I would have a very hard time writing without coffee. Maybe it'd be better writing because I'd like take my time and consider shit. But I like this frantic coffeeed up pace. Like I like having coffee in my life. I don't want it to leave. I think I've been drinking like a big ass thing of cold brew every single day for like 2 years, and I'm not gonna stop. So I love that they're betting a meal on this. I like that Pirate and Trader are coming closer. I like that we show Trader as being isolated from the others. I like that he decides that he's going to excel and he's punished for it, and he manages to overcome, but he takes like a terrible beating and almost gets killed there. So this is a chapter that I'm really happy with the work that it does. I think I missed the others today, just because I don't think that without like 3 sets of eyes on it, we don't edit as deeply as we can. And I like the idea of the Bayonetta de Basura, or the garbage lance, or whatever. This is like part of how I want the theme of this to be. I want their lives to be shitty and like mundane and dangerous and gritty and dirty. And I like this point where he's like, hop on and find out. And he takes this very juvenile stand, and the others like laugh about it, and the laughter dispels the tension. There are a lot of things that I like in that chapter. And anytime like I add a chapter after the fact, I have to like deeply like, what work is this chapter doing, and so forth. And this is a pivotal chapter in the thing. And we're coming off of this like big chapter that's like all space battles, and it's huge and epic and enormous. And this is a chapter right after it about a guy cleaning out a garbage chute. So I like the contrast between those 2 chapters, where he's like dreaming about giant space battles, and he's like literally cleaning garbage with a pole. So yeah, thank you, Negi. Negi, you were like the superstar today. You really made this shit happen in a big ass way, and I'm so happy that you found this. I'm glad that I can link this shit in your server too. I really appreciate it. And we did good work today, even though we didn't do a lot of work. Tomorrow we'll start back up again with the interrogation. And I love fucking interrogation scenes. Stuck in the middle with you. All right, let me get out of here. Good luck to anybody watching this throughout, and have a good day. You can achieve your dreams if you work your ass off.